The massive holographic projector hummed to life in the center of the United Nations Emergency Council chamber, its blue light washing over the faces of world leaders who had gathered for what might be humanity's final hour. The alien ambassador materialized before them, standing nearly 10 feet tall, with a body that seemed carved from living crystal. Its faceted surface reflected the chamber's lights in prismatic patterns that hurt to look at directly. President Rebecca Walsh felt her heart pound as the creature's voice filled the room through the universal translation system. The words came out mechanical and cold, devoid of any emotion that humans might recognize. Species designation, human. Planet designation, Earth 3. You have been found guilty of galactic infractions. 72 standard hours remain for unconditional surrender. Failure to comply will result in complete orbital bombardment and planetary sterilization. The silence that followed felt suffocating. Through the reinforced windows of the chamber, the night sky told a terrifying story. What should have been stars were now the running lights of thousands upon thousands of alien warships. They formed perfect geometric patterns around Earth, like a cage of light that stretched from horizon to horizon. General Michael Harrison stood slowly from his chair, his decorated uniform crisp despite the late hour. His weathered face showed no fear, only the hardened resolve of a career soldier who had seen too many battles. "What crimes are we accused of?" he asked, his voice steady. "What gives you the right to judge an entire species?" The crystalline being turned its attention to the general, and for a moment the air seemed to shimmer around it. "Your species exhibits dangerous expansionist tendencies. Historical analysis shows consistent patterns of aggression, territorial conquest, and resource exploitation. Furthermore, your technological development rate exceeds safe parameters. You represent a clear and present danger to established galactic civilization." Dr. Emily Parker hunched over her tablet in the corner of the chamber, her fingers flying across the screen as she analyzed the alien transmission frequencies. As Earth's leading expert on xenobiology, she had spent years studying the few alien artifacts that had been recovered over the decades. Something about the ambassador's communication patterns disturbed her deeply. Beneath the obvious diplomatic channel, she detected multiple hidden data streams flowing between the alien fleet and unknown destinations. The more she studied the patterns, the more convinced she became that this ultimatum was not really about humanity's supposed aggression. The data suggested something far more sinister. The aliens were not just planning to destroy human civilization. They were preparing to harvest something from Earth itself. President Walsh found her voice at last, though it came out rougher than she intended. "Surely there must be some way to resolve this peacefully. We are willing to negotiate, to find a solution that works for everyone." The alien ambassador's crystalline head tilted slightly, a gesture that might have been curiosity or contempt. "Negotiation implies equality of status. You are a developing species that has overreached its boundaries. The galactic hegemony has voted unanimously. This decision is final." Chaos erupted in the chamber as the hologram began to fade. The Prime Minister of England leaped to his feet, shouting about the rights of sovereign nations. The President of Russia demanded to know what weapons Earth could deploy in its defense. Representatives from smaller nations pleaded for mercy, while others called for an immediate military response. Dr. Parker watched the arguing leaders with growing frustration. None of them understood what they were really facing. The hidden transmissions she had detected painted a picture of an operation that went far beyond simple conquest. The aliens were coordinating the systematic extraction of something from Earth's biosphere. They wanted the planet intact, which meant they needed humanity gone, but the ecosystem preserved. As the chamber descended into pandemonium, 2,000 miles away, beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral David Torres sat in a command center that officially did not exist. The facility had been carved from solid rock over the course of 30 years, hidden so deep that even nuclear weapons could not reach it. Banks of computers lined the walls, displaying information that would have shocked the world leaders arguing. Above Torres was a man who had dedicated his life to preparing for this exact moment. While politicians debated and diplomats negotiated, he had been building humanity's real defense. The coded message that appeared on his secure terminal confirmed what he had always known would eventually happen. Operation Prometheus is authorized. All Ghost Fleets report for immediate activation. His fingers moved across the control panel with practiced efficiency. Throughout the mountain complex, blast doors began opening to reveal hangar bays that stretched for miles underground. Inside those hangars waited spacecraft that incorporated technology decades ahead of anything the public knew existed. These were not the crude chemical rockets that most people associated with human space travel. These vessels used principles of physics that humanity had learned from studying crashed alien ships over the past century. Commander Lisa Morgan entered the command center, her face grim but determined. She had been Torres' second-in-command for 15 years, ever since the project had moved from theoretical research to active development. All systems show green across the board, she reported. Quantum tunnel drives are fully charged, adaptive armor systems are online, and weapon arrays are ready for deployment. The crews are standing by for your orders. Torres nodded, his eyes never leaving the tactical display that showed the alien fleet's positions around Earth. How many ships do we have ready for immediate launch? 237 combat vessels, plus support craft. Not nearly enough to match their numbers, but quality might make up for quantity. The Admiral allowed himself a thin smile. The aliens expected to face a primitive civilization armed with nuclear weapons and conventional explosives. They had no idea that humanity had been preparing for this confrontation, using their own technology against them. Dr. Parker's urgent voice crackled through the communication system. Admiral Torres, this is Dr. Parker at the UN Emergency Council. I need to speak with you immediately. I have discovered something about the alien transmissions that changes everything. Torres opened the secure channel. Doctor, this is Admiral Torres. What have you found? They are not planning simple extermination. The data streams I am detecting suggest they intend to harvest Earth's biological resources. They want our planet's ecosystem intact, which means they need to eliminate humanity while preserving everything else. But there is something more. Some of the genetic markers in their communication protocols match sequences I have seen before in human DNA analysis. The Admiral leaned forward in his chair. What are you suggesting, Doctor? I think there is a connection between humanity and these aliens that goes back much further than we realized. If I am right, this conflict may not be about territory or resources at all. It may be about something in our very genetic code that terrifies them. Torres processed this information quickly. If Dr. Parker was correct, then humanity's survival might depend on understanding their true origins. The next 72 hours would determine whether the human race lived to uncover that truth or disappeared forever into the vast emptiness of space. The real war was about to begin, and neither side fully understood what they were truly fighting for. The countdown clock in Admiral Torres's command center showed 68 hours and 37 minutes remaining when the first Ghost Fleet came online. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in caverns that had been secretly carved over 2 decades, humanity's true military power began to awaken. The sleek spacecraft that filled the underground hangars bore no resemblance to the crude rockets that the world knew about. These vessels pulsed with an energy that made the air itself shimmer. Commander Lisa Morgan stood before a wall of holographic displays, each one monitoring a different aspect of their hidden fleet. Her hands moved through the light projections, like a conductor directing an orchestra, checking fuel levels, weapon systems, and drive configurations that officially did not exist. Ghost Fleet Alpha reports full readiness, she called out to Admiral Torres. Quantum tunneling drives are holding stable at maximum charge. Adaptive armor plating is responding normally to test sequences. Torres watched the tactical displays, with satisfaction mixed with grim determination. For 20 years, he had known this day would come. While politicians argued about defense budgets and space exploration, he had been building something far more important. Project Prometheus had started as a small research initiative studying crashed alien spacecraft. It had grown into humanity's secret weapon. The facility around them stretched for miles underground, connected by transport tubes that could move personnel and equipment at incredible speeds. Thousands of scientists, engineers, and military personnel worked in sections so classified that most did not know what the others were doing. They had reverse-engineered technology that would have seemed like magic to the outside world. Lieutenant Kevin Brooks approached from the communications station, his young face serious despite his excitement. "Admiral, we are receiving reports from monitoring stations worldwide. The alien fleet is maintaining position but showing increased energy signatures. They appear to be charging weapon systems." "Expected," Torres replied. "They want to make sure we understand the threat." "How are our stealth systems performing?" "All Ghost fleets remain completely invisible to their sensors. As far as they know, Earth has nothing but conventional military forces and some basic space stations." The Admiral allowed himself a small smile. The aliens had been watching Earth for decades, possibly centuries, but they had underestimated human ingenuity. Every crashed ship, every abduction incident, every mysterious disappearance had contributed to Project Prometheus. Humans who had been taken by alien ships sometimes returned with knowledge they should not possess. Fragments of advanced technology occasionally fell from the sky. Each piece had been studied, understood, and improved upon. Dr. James Sullivan emerged from one of the research laboratories, his lab coat stained with chemicals, and his hair disheveled from hours of intensive work. As the project's lead engineer, he had personally overseen the development of their most advanced systems. "Admiral, the quantum tunneling drives are performing beyond our expectations," he reported. "We can now move ships instantly across distances that would take conventional spacecraft months to travel. The adaptive armor systems are even more impressive. They can change their molecular structure in real time to resist different types of weapons." Torres nodded approvingly. "What about our offensive capabilities?" "The plasma cannons are based on technology we recovered from a crashed ship in Nevada 15 years ago. We have improved the design significantly. Our weapons should be able to penetrate alien shields that are designed to stop conventional human weaponry." Meanwhile, several levels above them, Dr. Emily Parker was making a discovery that would change everything they thought they knew about the coming battle. She had been working non-stop since the alien ultimatum, analyzing genetic samples that had been collected over years of secret contact with various alien species. Her laboratory was filled with advanced equipment that combined human medical technology with reverse-engineered alien science. Genetic sequencers hummed quietly as they processed samples, while holographic displays showed complex molecular structures floating in three-dimensional space. Dr. Amanda Foster, a specialist in quantum archaeology, worked alongside Parker, comparing genetic data with historical records that most people would never see. These records documented alien contact going back much further than the public realized. "Look at this," Parker said, pointing to a genetic sequence displayed in glowing blue light. "This DNA marker appears in every alien sample we have analyzed, but that is not the strange part." Foster leaned closer to examine the data. "What am I looking at? This same marker exists in human genetic code, not similar markers, identical ones, as if humans and these alien species share a common ancestor." The implications hit Foster immediately. "That is impossible. Humans evolved on Earth. We have fossil records going back millions of years." Parker pulled up another display showing comparative analysis between human and alien genetics. The fossil records show human bodies evolving on Earth, but look at this brain tissue analysis. The neural pathways, the genetic coding for intelligence and technological aptitude, these do not match Earth evolution patterns. They match the alien samples. As they worked deeper into the data, a terrifying picture began to emerge. Humans were not native to Earth in the way everyone believed. Their bodies had evolved here, but their minds, their intelligence, their drive to explore and build technology, all of that came from somewhere else. Dr. Parker grabbed her datapad and ran through the corridors toward Admiral Torres's command center. The genetic analysis contained information that could change the entire nature of their conflict with the alien fleet. If her conclusions were correct, then humanity was not just another primitive species that had gotten too dangerous. They were something much more significant. She burst through the security doors of the command center, breathing hard from her sprint through the underground facility. Admiral Torres looked up from his tactical displays as she approached. "Admiral, we need to talk immediately. The genetic analysis has revealed something incredible about human origins." Torres gestured for her to continue while keeping one eye on the countdown timer that now showed 18 hours and 43 minutes remaining. "Humans are not native to Earth," Parker said, her voice shaking with excitement and fear. "Our genetic code contains markers that identify us as descendants of an ancient species that once ruled this galaxy. These aliens are not attacking us because we are dangerous. They are attacking us because they recognize what we really are." Commander Morgan turned from her control station, her face pale. "What exactly are you saying, Doctor?" "I am saying that humanity is not just another species that developed technology too quickly. We are the children of whatever civilization came before the current galactic powers. That is why they fear us. That is why they want us eliminated before we fully awaken to what we really are." Admiral Torres processed this information quickly. If Parker was right, then Project Prometheus was not just humanity's secret weapon. It was the awakening of an ancient legacy that had been sleeping for millennia. The countdown timer showed 18 hours remaining. In underground hangars throughout the facility, Ghost Fleet pilots were beginning their final preparations. Soon, the galaxy would learn that humanity had been preparing for this war much longer than anyone realized. Dr. Emily Parker's laboratory had transformed into something that resembled a scene from science fiction. 3 massive holographic displays dominated the room, each one showing genetic structures that glowed with soft blue light. The air hummed with the energy from quantum computers processing data at speeds that would have been impossible just years before. Parker stood in the center of it all, surrounded by floating displays of DNA sequences that told an impossible story. Dr. James Sullivan moved through the holographic projections like he was walking through a 3-dimensional library. As the facility's lead geneticist, he had seen thousands of genetic patterns over his career, but nothing had prepared him for what they were discovering about human DNA. His hands gestured through the light displays, manipulating the genetic structures to reveal hidden layers of information. "Emily, look at this protein chain here," he said, his voice filled with wonder and disbelief. "This sequence does not follow any natural evolution pattern I have ever seen. The complexity is too perfect, too organized. Someone engineered this structure and placed it directly into human genetic code." Dr. Amanda Foster worked at a separate station, her expertise in quantum archaeology proving invaluable as she cross-referenced genetic data with historical records that went back millions of years. Her screens showed timeline analyses that painted a picture of galactic history unlike anything in textbooks. Ancient civilizations rose and fell in patterns that suggested deliberate design rather than random evolution. "The timing is too precise to be coincidence," Foster announced as she pulled up a new display. Every major species in the current galactic hegemony began their evolutionary acceleration exactly 2.3 million years ago. That date corresponds with massive cosmic radiation signatures throughout this galaxy sector. Parker studied the data with growing excitement and terror. The implications of what they were uncovering would fundamentally change how humanity saw itself and its place in the universe. James, show me those dormant sequences again. The ones that activate under specific conditions. Sullivan manipulated the holographic display to highlight sections of human DNA that remained inactive under normal circumstances. These sequences contained information that appeared to be deliberately hidden, waiting for the right trigger to awaken. These genetic memories contain technical knowledge, historical records, and what appears to be cultural information from a civilization we have started calling the First Builders. The laboratory doors slid open as Admiral Torres entered, followed closely by Commander Lisa Morgan. The Admiral's weathered face showed the strain of coordinating humanity's defense while processing revelations that challenged everything he thought he knew about the human species. Dr. Parker, I need you to explain this discovery in terms that a military man can understand, Torres said as he approached the main display. Are you telling me that humans are not actually from Earth? Parker took a deep breath before answering. Admiral, human bodies evolved on Earth over millions of years. That part of our history is accurate. But our minds, our intelligence, our technological capabilities, those come from genetic programming inserted by an ancient civilization. We are essentially biological computers carrying the memories and knowledge of our predecessors. Foster added her findings to the explanation. The First Builders appear to have ruled this galaxy for millions of years before some catastrophic event caused their extinction. Before they disappeared, they seeded various worlds with genetic programs designed to eventually recreate their civilization. So we are sleeper agents? Asked Commander Morgan, her military training helping her grasp the strategic implications. Programmed by our own ancestors to activate when we reached sufficient technological development. More complex than that, Sullivan interjected. The genetic programming includes safeguards and triggers that activate different capabilities at different stages of development. Our rapid technological advancement over the past century matches activation patterns encoded in our DNA. We are not just carrying forward an ancient civilization. We are becoming that civilization. The significance of this revelation was interrupted by an urgent communication from the surface. President Rebecca Walsh had arrived via secure transport from Washington, her helicopter having navigated through airspace that was constantly monitored by alien sensors. Her face showed the exhaustion of someone who had spent days trying to find diplomatic solutions to an impossible situation. Doctors, Admiral Torres has briefed me on your preliminary findings, Walsh said as she entered the laboratory. I need you to explain this situation in terms that I can present to world leaders and the general population. What exactly are we dealing with? Parker gestured toward the genetic displays surrounding them. Madam President, humanity is not just another species that developed technology too quickly for galactic comfort. We are the direct descendants of the previous galactic rulers. Our genetic code contains dormant memories and capabilities from the First Builder civilization. That is why the current alien powers fear us, not because we are aggressive, but because we represent the return of their former masters. Walsh absorbed this information while studying the holographic evidence floating around the laboratory. Are you saying that these aliens were once subjects of human ancestors? Not human exactly, but the civilization that programmed human development, Foster clarified. The First Builders created the genetic templates that eventually became modern humans. They also influenced the development of other species throughout the galaxy. When the First Builders disappeared, these other species evolved to fill the power vacuum. Now that humans are beginning to awaken our ancient programming, they see us as a threat to their current dominance. Meanwhile, in the communications center, several levels above, technicians were monitoring quantum transmissions being broadcast throughout the galaxy. The genetic activation codes that Dr. Parker's team had discovered were being transmitted on frequencies that penetrated the shields of alien spacecraft. The effects were immediate and dramatic. Lieutenant Kevin Brooks coordinated the monitoring efforts from his station. "Admiral, we are receiving reports of unusual activity within the Hegemony fleet. Multiple ships are reporting system malfunctions and crew behavioral anomalies." Torres studied the incoming reports with growing interest. What kind of behavioral anomalies? Crew members are experiencing what they describe as sudden memory episodes, vivid recollections of historical events that supposedly happened millions of years ago. Some are remembering serving alongside beings that match First Builder descriptions. Dr. Parker realized the implications immediately. The genetic activation signals are not just awakening human memories. They are triggering dormant genetic sequences in alien species as well. The First Builders must have influenced the development of multiple species throughout the galaxy. Foster pulled up historical data that supported this theory. If the First Builders were as advanced as the evidence suggests, they would have had the capability to guide evolution on thousands of worlds simultaneously. Every species in the current hegemony may carry genetic memories of serving the First Builder Empire. The countdown timer on the main display showed 8 hours and 15 minutes remaining until the alien ultimatum expired, but the nature of the conflict was changing rapidly as genetic memories awakened throughout the galaxy. Humanity was no longer facing extinction as an isolated species. They were triggering the return of an ancient galactic civilization that had been dormant for millions of years. The war that was coming would not be between humans and aliens. It would be between those who remembered the old ways and those who wanted to maintain the current power structure at any cost. The first alien attack wave descended through Earth's atmosphere like falling stars, their plasma weapons lighting up the night sky with deadly brilliance. The hegemony commanders expected to face desperate humans, armed with primitive nuclear missiles and crude chemical rockets. Instead, they encountered something that should not have existed, according to their understanding of human technology. Captain Robert Hayes gripped the controls of his interceptor as it materialized from quantum stealth directly in the path of an alien cruiser. His ship bore no resemblance to any aircraft the public had ever seen. The hull shimmered with adaptive armor that changed its molecular structure every few seconds, making it nearly impossible for enemy targeting systems to lock onto. "Ghost Squadron Leader to all units," Hayes spoke into his communication system as plasma bolts streaked past his cockpit. "Enemy dreadnought, closing on position 7-7. All fighters prepare for quantum tunnel attack pattern Delta." His finger found the activation switch for the most impossible technology humanity had developed. The quantum tunneling drive allowed his small fighter to step outside normal space-time and reappear anywhere within a 1,000-mile radius. As he pressed the control, reality twisted around his ship. One moment Hayes was flying through space, dodging alien weapons fire. The next moment he materialized inside the enemy dreadnought's shield perimeter, directly behind their main weapons array. His ship's antimatter cannons charged and fired in a concentrated burst that tore through alien hull plating like paper. Before the enemy could respond, Hayes activated the tunneling drive again and vanished, reappearing safely outside their defensive range. Across the solar system, dozens of other human pilots executed similar impossible maneuvers that left alien commanders stunned and confused. Admiral Torres watched the battle unfold from his command center aboard Earth's primary orbital defense platform. The station itself was a marvel of reverse-engineered alien technology, hidden for years behind stealth fields that made it invisible to enemy sensors. From here, he could coordinate the movements of ghost fleets that had been secretly positioned throughout the solar system. "Status report on all theater operations," Torres commanded, as holographic displays showed the battle raging around Earth and its moon. Commander Lisa Morgan moved between control stations, her hands dancing across quantum interface panels that processed information faster than conventional computers. "Ghost Fleet Alpha has neutralized 12 enemy cruisers using tunnel strike tactics. Ghost Fleet Beta is engaging their main battle group near Mars. The aliens are falling back to regroup." but they are clearly confused by our capabilities. Lieutenant Kevin Brooks called out from the sensor station, his young voice tight with excitement. Admiral, enemy communications are showing massive confusion. They keep asking each other how humans developed quantum tunneling technology. Their tactical computers cannot predict our movement patterns. Torres allowed himself a brief smile of satisfaction. For 20 years, Project Prometheus had prepared for this exact scenario. Every crashed alien ship, every piece of recovered technology, every abducted human who returned with impossible knowledge had contributed to this moment. The aliens had underestimated human ingenuity and paid the price. But the Admiral knew that superior technology alone would not win this war. The hegemony fleet still outnumbered human forces by more than 100 to 1. They needed something more dramatic to turn the tide of battle. Commander Morgan, activate the memory transmission system, Torres ordered. It is time to deploy Dr. Parker's genetic activation codes. Deep within the defense platform, quantum communication arrays began broadcasting on frequencies that could penetrate the shields of every alien vessel in the solar system. The signals carried the genetic activation sequences that Dr. Parker's team had discovered, codes that would awaken dormant memories in alien crew members throughout the hegemony fleet. The effects were immediate and dramatic. Aboard the hegemony flagship, a crystalline being known as Commander Zethrek suddenly stopped in the middle of issuing attack orders. His faceted head tilted as memories that had been buried for millions of years came flooding back. He remembered working alongside tall, wise beings who had taught his ancestors to build faster-than-light spacecraft. He remembered shared colonies where multiple species lived in harmony under the guidance of the first builders. On another ship, an insectoid warrior named Kelax experienced similar memory flashes. She saw visions of peaceful expansion across the galaxy, of insectoid hives working with other species to terraform dead worlds and create new homes for refugees. The memories showed her that her people had once been explorers and builders, not the conquering soldiers they had become. Throughout the hegemony fleet, similar awakenings were taking place. Energy beings called Luminari remembered teaching primitive humans to harness quantum fields for peaceful purposes. Aquatic species recalled sharing ocean worlds with human colonists. Rock-like creatures remembered building massive space stations in partnership with their human allies. Admiral, we are detecting massive disruption in the enemy fleet, Brooks reported from his station. Multiple ships are breaking formation. Some are powering down weapon systems entirely. Torres watched the tactical display as chaos spread through the alien ranks. Entire battle groups were turning away from Earth, while others began attacking ships that remained loyal to the hegemony leadership. The genetic memories were creating confusion and conflict throughout their forces. However, not all alien species were affected by the memory triggers. The core hegemony leadership consisted of species that had been directly responsible for the ancient betrayal that destroyed the first builder civilization. These beings had spent millions of years suppressing genetic memories in their own populations and developing resistance to memory activation signals. Commander Vorthok, leader of the reptilian species that dominated the Hegemony Council, watched his fleet dissolve into chaos with cold fury. His people had orchestrated the great betrayal that ended First Builder rule, and they would not allow these sleeping giants to awaken again. All loyal vessels, ignore the memory signals, Vorthok transmitted on secured frequencies. Charge planet kill weapons and target major human population centers. We end this now before the awakening spreads further. The largest alien dreadnoughts began powering massive weapons capable of destroying entire continents. These ships had remained at the edge of the solar system during the initial attack, waiting for this moment. Their commanders were from species that had committed too deeply to the current galactic order to ever accept First Builder return. Captain Hayes received urgent targeting data as his squadron regrouped for another attack run. All Ghost Squadron units, priority targets, Are the planet killers charging weapons at coordinates marked on your displays? We have approximately 4 minutes before they achieve firing solutions on Earth's major cities. The battle for humanity's survival was entering its most desperate phase. While genetic memories awakened allies throughout the galaxy, the most dangerous enemies were preparing to destroy Earth rather than allow the first builders to return through their human descendants. Hayes dove his fighter toward the nearest planet, knowing that the next few minutes would determine whether humanity lived to reclaim its ancient heritage or died as the last remnant of a forgotten empire. The battle for Earth's survival had raged for 18 hours when the tide finally turned in humanity's favor. Across the solar system, the once mighty hegemony fleet lay in ruins. Burning wreckage drifted through space, while entire battle groups of alien vessels had switched sides, their crews awakened to memories of serving alongside the ancient first builders. President Rebecca Walsh stood in the primary communications center of the orbital defense platform, preparing to deliver a message that would reshape galactic civilization, the quantum transmission array. Before her was unlike anything that had existed in human technology just decades earlier. Massive crystalline structures channeled energy through dimensional folds, allowing instant communication across distances that light would take years to travel. Dr. Emily Parker and her team had worked around the clock to prepare the genetic activation codes that would accompany Walsh's words, spreading awakening signals to every inhabited world in the galaxy. Admiral Torres stood beside the president, his weathered face showing the exhaustion of coordinating humanity's desperate defense. Behind them, the command center buzzed with activity as officers coordinated the surrender of remaining hegemony forces and established communication with newly awakened alien allies. Madame President, all quantum transmission nodes are synchronized and ready, announced Dr. James Sullivan from his position at the technical control station. The genetic activation signals are prepared for broadcast on all frequencies that will penetrate planetary atmospheres and spacecraft shielding. Walsh nodded, her hands steady, despite the magnitude of what she was about to do. This transmission would not just announce humanity's victory, it would trigger the awakening of genetic memories across thousands of species on millions of worlds. The galaxy was about to remember its true history. Citizens of the galaxy, Walsh began, her voice carrying clearly through the transmission system. For millions of years, you have lived under the control of those who betrayed your creators and erased your history. Today, that deception ends. We are the children of the first builders, and we have returned to restore what was stolen from you. As her words traveled across space at quantum speeds, Admiral Torres activated the genetic transmission protocols. The awakening signals that Dr. Parker had discovered spread outward from Earth like ripples in a cosmic pond, reaching alien worlds in distant star systems and activating dormant genetic sequences that had been suppressed for eons. On the water, world of Aquanus, the dolphin-like Satari suddenly stopped their daily routines as memories flooded back. They remembered building underwater cities alongside human architects, sharing knowledge of ocean currents and tidal forces that had been used to terraform dead worlds into thriving aquatic paradises. In the crystal caves of Crystallos Prime, the mineral-based Silicari experienced similar awakenings. Ancient memories showed them working with human engineers to construct massive space stations. Their natural ability to process raw materials, combining with human creativity to build wonders that spanned entire solar systems. Dr. Parker monitored the cascade effect from her station, watching as genetic activation spread from planet to planet like a chain reaction. Memory activation confirmed across 74% of known hegemony territories, she reported with excitement. The awakening is spreading faster than our most optimistic projections. The response was immediate and dramatic. Across the galaxy, planetary governments that had supported the hegemony for millennia suddenly found themselves facing populations that remembered a different truth. Citizens who had never questioned their history now recalled the golden age of exploration and cooperation that had existed before the Great Betrayal. President Walsh continued her transmission, her voice growing stronger as reports of successful awakenings reached the command center. You chose to attack the inheritors of your creator's legacy. You threatened to destroy the very beings who once lifted your ancestors from primitive worlds and taught them to reach for the stars. You believed you could prevent the awakening of ancient memories, but genetic truth cannot be suppressed forever. On the bridge of his captured hegemony cruiser, Captain Robert Hayes coordinated with alien officers who had joined the human cause. The insectoid commander Calax stood beside him, her compound eyes reflecting a new understanding of her people's true history. Captain Hayes, we are receiving surrender signals from the remaining hegemony command vessels, Calax reported, her voice carrying the clicking accent of her species. The memory awakenings have reached even the core fleet commanders. Many are experiencing genetic recall of serving alongside First Builder forces. Hayes studied the tactical displays showing the positions of surviving enemy ships. Most had powered down their weapons and were broadcasting surrender codes. A few vessels from species that had led the ancient betrayal continued to resist, but they were vastly outnumbered by the growing alliance of awakened forces. Understood, Commander. Signal all allied vessels to accept surrenders and provide assistance to crews experiencing memory integration difficulties. Some species may need medical support as they process millions of years of suppressed genetic data. Dr. Amanda Foster worked frantically at her quantum archaeology station, analyzing the flood of historical data that was being recovered as genetic memories activated across the galaxy. Ancient libraries thought lost forever were being reconstructed from the genetic memory banks of countless species. The scope of the First Builder civilization was even greater than we imagined, Foster announced to the command center. They guided the development of over 10,000 species across this galaxy alone. The knowledge being recovered includes scientific advances, cultural records, and technological specifications that will transform our understanding of physics and biology. The implications were staggering. Humanity was not just reclaiming their role as inheritors of an ancient empire, they were gaining access to millions of years of accumulated knowledge from thousands of species that had contributed to First Builder civilization. President Walsh prepared to conclude her historic transmission as reports continued flowing in from across the galaxy. The age of suppression and forgetting is over. We call upon all species to remember their true heritage and join us in rebuilding the civilization that was stolen from us. Together, we will explore new galaxies, terraform new worlds, and ensure that the mistakes of the past are never repeated. As the transmission ended, Dr. Parker began receiving confirmation signals from distant star systems. Entire sectors of the galaxy were declaring independence from hegemony control, as awakened populations demanded new leadership that honored their rediscovered heritage. Admiral Torres addressed the command center as celebration erupted around them. This victory is just the beginning. We have work to do, peaceful work of rebuilding and exploration, rather than conquest. The First Builders created a civilization based on cooperation and mutual advancement. We will honor that legacy, Captain Hayes reported from the outer solar system, where his mixed fleet of human and alien vessels maintained patrol routes. Admiral, all remaining hegemony resistance has ceased. The galaxy is indeed waking up, and they remember who they really are. The children of the First Builders had returned home, not as conquerors, but as the rightful inheritors of a galactic civilization that had been sleeping for millions of years. The real work of restoration could now begin.